So today we're going to be revisiting the Blackmagic URSA 4K EF version 1, 8 years after its release. This isn't a camera review, this is just a brutally honest, practical advice to anyone looking to pick up one of these bad boys today, 2022 or 2023, depending on whenever you watch this video. Today's video is sponsored by FILMCORP Studios. This isn't really the video I was supposed to be releasing today. It was supposed to be one on sound design tips. However, I have a commitment to release a video every week, and so if this one should end a little bit abruptly, yeah, that's why. So someone had asked my opinion about picking up one of these cameras because someone was going to give it to him at a very good deal. It was around 1 million naira, which is roughly $1,400. Interesting fact, when this camera came out back in 2014, it was retailing at about $6,000 US, which back then with the exchange rate, it was still around 1 million naira. Thunder with fire. So I gave him my candid advice, which still stands, but then I said, hey, you know what, I have access to the camera, why don't I just make a video out of it? Also, more importantly, why don't I compare it with my tiny workhorse of a camera? This is not a camera review, remember, this is not a head-to-head comparison. It'll just be interesting to see what this guy 8 years ago can do compared to this guy. I need to find out when this camera came out. Just a little bit of a disclaimer, these points that I'm about to give are extremely subjective and opinionated and may not apply to you, because what works for me isn't exactly what works for you. The URSA is big and heavy. I hated it back then, I hate it even more today. I cannot imagine shooting documentaries with this thing. I'm talking about field community work documentaries, not just in terms of carrying it up and down, but even traveling with it might be a serious issue. Imagine trying to put this thing in the overhead luggage. Now with the size and the weight comes the accessories that you will need. Your average tripod that carries your mirrorless cameras will not carry this camera. Your slider, same thing. Your gimbal, it's EF mount, so you're pretty much covered in terms of lens choices. However, it also has a PL version, but not many of us have PL lenses. ISO 200, 400 and 800, that's it. So unless you're filming outside, you're going to need lights. No internal ND filters, that is a big deal breaker for me. I cannot be carrying this cross all over the place and not have internal ND filters, no way. Why? It only has SDI outputs, which if you're like me and you own an Atomos Ninja 5 or any monitor that uses only HDMI, using an external monitor with this camera will be impossible. Speaking about monitors, it does have 3 big as 10-inch, I think, one inside and the other one at the back, but only one of them is really useful. The one here has a magenta tint. The big guy on the screen has a green tint, and the really only useful one is this guy right here. It does shoot RAW, then again Blackmagic has always done RAW, but it is the old cinema DNG RAW, not the new Blackmagic RAW. So if you are going to be shooting a lot of RAW footage, then you need to think about the workflow. Speaking of old and new, the film log profile seems to be a bit different from what we have in the Blackmagic cameras today. The image is quite desaturated but contrasty in a muddy way. It's not very flat. I mean, compare that with the S-Log 3 of the Sony. It's quite contrasty but muddy, like the shadows are ugh. I remember this look was like a giveaway back then with the Blackmagic cameras. This is Veronica, by the way, my loyal test subject. It uses CFast cards, not the cheapest, but they are not as expensive as they used to be before. I didn't use it for too long to judge the battery consumption, but I think it would be safe to say just have like a spare or 2 spare V-mount batteries with you on your shoot. It has 2 XLR inputs, which is great, but I don't know much about the preamps in the camera. Dynamic range. While filming, I didn't feel like it had a lot of dynamic range, which is no surprise as Blackmagic rated it at 12 stops, which in reality might be lower. Compare this to my Sony A6 300, which is rated at 12.7 actual usable stops. Now, of course, depending on the type of work that you do, most if not all these things that I've mentioned might not matter that much to you. You can always find your way around these things, and if that's you, then this might be a great choice for you. Personally, the biggest thing for me would be the ProRes 4444, and I think that's 14 bits 444. That's a steal for the price point that you can pick one of these guys up today. So that's it for today. If you want me to do more of these types of videos, subscribe, smash that like button, and more importantly, drop your questions in the comment section. Maybe there's a camera you want me to have a look at or recommend or trash, and I will see you soon.